Let's take a look at the week ahead. We'll see earnings from Nike, FedEx, and Lululemon. We'll also hear the latest interest rate decision from the Federal Reserve. And finally, Reddit is expected to IPO this week. Scott, do you have any predictions?
My prediction is that Reddit gets, and this is dangerous, that Reddit gets a fairly substantial day one pop. And it just goes back to, we used to live in an agriculture economy, then world's trade routes were driven by spices, and then it was obviously we're in an oil or natural resource-based economy. I think we are in an attention-based economy. The most valuable firms in the world basically monetize our attention. And if you look at the most trafficked sites in America, number 3 is Reddit. And if you look at those 4 companies, 3 of them have $1 trillion plus valuation, and one is going out at a valuation, I think it's estimated about $6.5 billion. So if you look at the charts I used to love this chart from 10 years ago that I used to show in presentations, and it had attention versus ad spend. And so, for example, newspapers were getting 6% of the nation's attention, but they had 15% of the advertising, and digital was getting 35% of the nation's attention, but only had 8% of the advertising. And you just knew over time that they would calibrate or they would equalize. And when I look at the third most trafficked site in the United States going out at $6.5 billion, I think that has opportunity, and this sounds crazy, but that has opportunity to be 100x in 10 years if they can maintain that sort of attention. So my prediction is Reddit gets a substantial pop on the first trade in the IPO.
Do you have any thoughts on how they could start monetizing that attention more efficiently or just better? I mean, you look at where it ranks in web traffic, but then you look at its revenue, $800 million in revenue. That's a fraction of all of these other companies you mentioned. How do they unlock that attention and start monetizing it in a substantial way?
I think it's about management in the ad stack. And by the way, the exact same criticisms were levied against Meta. I remember our buddy Bill Cohen interviewing me on Bloomberg 15 years ago before the IPO of Meta. And he said, what is this business is this in? You know, their revenues weren't that big. They were growing fast. But this is about the ad stack. This is about figuring out a way to target people at the right place, right time, right kind of situation and hit them with the right ad. It's about developing crazy ad tools that help advertisers reach the right people in the right context. But I think that is less difficult, than building an offering that gets the third most attention of any website in America. I think they've got the hard stuff done. I think they've done the heavy lifting. I think good management with the third most trafficked site in America can figure out a way to get this thing worth $100 billion.
You'll be buying?
I'm going to try. I'm calling everyone I know, trying to get in on the IPO. And depending on if I'm able to get shares in the IPO, I might not be able to, but if I can, I'll look at what the first day pop is. And if it's not too extraordinary, I will probably buy some shares. Yeah.